When we funded Tesla, it was just one guy. It was Martin Eberhard.
That's right.
And Elon was brought in later. We actually tried to fund Elon with his first effort at X.com, which became PayPal. And he got a better offer from another corporate venture group at that time. But we kept an eye on him. And then with SpaceX, that was a little controversial because he was already running Tesla and it was a public company and and we were going to support him in his hobby. That he really is an extraordinary guy. And, if you want to be an entrepreneur, you got to get the one done first.
Tim Draper here has some comments on Bitcoin.
If managing your crypto feels like solving a puzzle, it's time to switch to Decent Wallet. So just a few taps, you can manage, track, and secure your crypto with unmatched ease. And here's the best part. Grab your Decent Wallet at a discounted price by using the referral link below. Don't miss out on making your crypto experience smoother and more secure.
So I'll give you a couple of thoughts. First, I look at stablecoins as a bridge to Bitcoin. It's like, hey, okay, we can use a digital currency, but it doesn't have it's not decentralized, it's not open, it's still political, it's not international, it's not global, it's national. And so stablecoins are going to be a nice, bridge to this. But eventually we're going to get to a place where retailers are saying, hey, I can save 2% just by accepting Bitcoin. The shoppers are going to say, hey, I can buy my food, my clothing, my shelter all in Bitcoin. Why do I want to hold on to these dollars? I can pay my taxes in Bitcoin. Why do I hold on to these dollars that are politically manipulated? Now, there are countries where this is painfully obvious to them, where they would much rather transact in Bitcoin. And those are like Argentina, Nigeria, Argentina until recently. Now we got real hope in Argentina.
Yeah, El Salvador as well, for example.
And El Salvador is, their economy is all kind of running on Bitcoin.
Yeah. So just to add to that, what Tim Draper said is he sees stablecoins as a bridge to Bitcoin. And one could say that you could see stablecoins as a bridge to reserve currencies. If you think of Bitcoin as eventually being a reserve currency, then stablecoins are a bridge to all reserve currencies. So if we look at what Ripple did with the Ripple USD, right? Now they have a bridge to XRP.
So everybody, I want to expand upon Rue's research that he's gathered with these particular clips, and we're going to do just that. What do I have? Well, in that last clip that you saw in regards to what Tim Draper was specifically mentioning about, we paid a close follow to what Elon was doing. Well, check this out. Yes, it's from Grok, but a lot of times, especially with Grok, they get it right. They don't filter out a lot of things because it's a free speech platform connected to X. So with that said, take a look at this for itself for what it's worth. Tim Draper and Associate Venture Capital, of course, mentioned, quote, when we funded Tesla, it was just one guy, and it was Martin Eberhard. We tried to fund Elon with his first effort at X.com, again, like he mentioned, 1999, which became, of course, PayPal. Now, a lot of us know the history behind this. If you don't, by all means, catch up, come back to this video, but still stay here for now. So he got a better offer from another venture corporate at that time. Well, we can get into the weeds about that if it's important, but check this out. So, again, Draper, as in Tim Draper, says we put, kept an eye on him, but with SpaceX, that was a little controversial. All right, so we've been there, done that. Now this part, if you go up a little bit, mentions specifically SWIFT Blockchain's native coin, which is SWFTC, right? SWFTC. There's a lot of projects hoping Elon Musk chooses their project. It's countless people covered like, hey, he's a big fan of Doge. Is he going to go with Doge? There's people point out, well, it makes sense he's going to go with Ripple XRP. True, he could very well go with it. This whole notion that he's only going to go with one, I don't think that's a thing. I think he's going to realize he might need a family of some of these technologies moving forward. So the way I look at it is like this. In reality, Elon Musk has connections, of course, to Draper VC. You clearly saw that in the clip provided from the one and only Rue.
Boom.
But with that also said, if this is the case, would this be Elon's #1 choice for X payments, or is it just a few that Elon Musk is thinking about, again, if regulations are passed? Now, this has an excellent explanation. Now, we're going to show you the next part of this, and trust me, it's going to flow really, really nicely. Let's pull it up more. So let's freeze it right here. So it is an interesting question. Everybody is wondering what Musk would do. And yes, SWIFT coin and SWIFT blockchain is obviously, so much bigger than just Elon Musk.
Right.
But whatever the case be, this is the highlight. This is what we're basically talking about. So, could it be a top contender for X payments? Well, a lot of people feel like that's just more speculation. Okay, true, with you. But it's that historical connection between Musk and Tim Draper. They break it down. For one, the highlights, the early involvement, the whole thing of, they didn't initially fund the whole thing with X.com, but Draper Associates did invest, of course, in SpaceX. Check mark. That in itself is something that you don't want to dismiss. If we talk about Stellar, which we have, and we talk about Jed McCaleb and VAST and the robust connections, not just VAST, I've done a whole long deep dive. The video you're looking for on my channel is called Stellar AI. And on my channel, I'll at least give you an end screen card about that. But let's jump back to this.
And then also
go ahead.
Note that Draper, through Draper University, is funding students to do projects on Stellar for Soroban.
Okay, 2 key things. So let's jump back to this. So we know that there's this continued relationship with Musk ecosystem. SWIFT Blockchain received, of course, backing from Draper Dragon. So does Musk want more backing moving forward? He might not even need it because he's, let's face it, insanely wealthy. But that fund tied to the broader Draper network, the benefits from the association, what other benefits are from the association? Now for me personally, and also Rue, it's the Draper connection to SWIFT blockchain. How? Why? Why does that matter? 400 off and on ramps. If Stellar brings you off and on ramps, this is your plug to what? Things like China.
Right.
Now, here's the thing. Recent unbanning, as we pointed out, in regards to Bitcoin, or BTC, got to be careful on that. And then also the whole thing of altcoins. We saw when Swift Coin was having its crazy pumps, and people were like, why is it pumping? We saw the news at that time, it's the off-ramp. I have all these altcoins. Now I can get off of it, swap to something else. What is my go-to platform? Bridgers. Think about it. A little bit more about this. As we pull up more of this research from X, they do get into some of the key highlights that we're bringing to you guys. So what signals would show indications of cross-chain technology to use the native token of SwiftCoin? Powers a platform designed for fast, low-cost cryptocurrency transactions across multiple blockchains. This makes SwiftCoin, of course, stand out through, of course, Swift Blockchain. But would it necessarily make it the #1 choice for X payments? Well, it might not be, but it might be for what? China. Now check it out a little bit more. If you're going to be the whole quote-unquote everything app, well, you have to realize what complements what. And my thing is, again, back to the whole thing of SWFT blockchain. He realizes Ripple as XRP as Elon Musk. He realizes Stellar and all that. But again, SWFT blockchain, does that really stand out in course when it comes to China? And I think obviously the answer is yes. So when we go into this whole thing about, regulatory hurdles, X payments will need a quote unquote system that complies with global financial laws. Think about it, global. Of course, China's part of that global mix. X payments will need a system that complies with global laws and SWIFT's centralized aspects despite its cross-chain focus. It might face scrutiny, but a lot of things face scrutiny. So we jump further down and we kick it back to what we have when we sit down together and talk more about this. I want you guys to see this key area, and that is this. If SWIFT coin, hear me out, is the top choice or just one of many, its plausibility on the short list, given Musk's ties to Draper and the SWIFT technical fit, well, without explicit statements from Musk or X, it's one of several contenders. It's not ruling out that there's no contention. That's bullish. On top of that, competing with Musk's whims, market dynamics, and whatever regulatory landscape emerges, the Draper link is a foot in the door.
Okay, so Max just found something that Draper said. We're going to play this again here, and Max is going to point out something.
And Elon was brought in later. We actually tried to fund Elon with his first effort at X.com, which became PayPal. And he got a better offer from another corporate venture group.
So in 5 years' time, where it's going to be, I think value will be derived in the trillions because, excuse me.
For global outlook for these Bitcoin and digital currencies.
So I'll give you a couple of thoughts. First, I look at stablecoins as a bridge to Bitcoin. It's like, hey, okay, we can use a digital currency, but
pause it right there. That's your aha moment. He could have said, I know I sound excited. He could have said various currencies, various bridge currencies. He doesn't say it. He says singular. He says currency. Well, think about it. You're personally invested into a SWIFT blockchain. You're talking about bridge currencies. We know, literally, that the utility of what SWIFT blockchain is called bridgers. Right. Mm-hmm. And that's over 400 and counting of various different cryptos and the technologies that are tied into them and so on. People criticize SWIFT coin saying, well, SWIFT coin is technically, built on Ethereum. But in reality, it's like, yeah, but it's a bridge to all of this. It's kind of like, to me, we talk about Quant with the skeleton key, and we used this example, I think, a couple weeks ago when we were together. So this is their own key to bridging basically the world. In this case, we'll use the example of China. He uses examples of Argentina. He uses examples of, was it some of those other ones you mentioned in South America and so on?
Yep, Nigeria.
Right. So, but again, currency. And you guys literally just heard it right there. So it's just a nice catch. I think that's more than coincidence. I think there's something there about that. Rue's got something he wants to share with you guys.
Oh, yeah. Now, check out my video. I have a video called X Cryptos Decoded. I think it's along with an XCN video. This is kind of the key to the X cryptos, okay? Because true, when you look at an X, it is kind of a bridge. It's kind of a bridge to different paths, right? So bridgers, and I broke down the symbolism in numerology to the word bridge. And there's a whole bunch of bridge, chain, all of these things are basically a bridge.
Well, even recently, I know we're talking about SWIFT coin,
yeah,
but the discovery of China and Fastnet with Quant. For the longest time, I was trying to figure out Fastnet, what's the interpretation, and what was uncovered in that mystery, solving that mystery, was it's the interpretation. We're getting the literal English interpretation, but what does it literally mean when you look more into it from, derive it from Mandarin, or actually it would be Cantonese with, because Hong Kong, they speak Cantonese.
Got it.
So you see different meanings. And then it came up with fast, simple, fast net. So I think what you're discovering with, again, whether it's numerical or not, there is a certain amount of, that holds weight. There's a whole water, there's a whole liquidity.
So definitely check that out, because when you look at all these different X cryptos and all the different things that, bridgers, all these different terms like stellar, interstellar, like interstellar is a bridge. It's interstellar. So like don't undercut the meaning of chain, like, and who's the guys behind XCN? Chain, that's literally their name. Then chain link, a link in the chain is a bridge to something, right? So of course we know liquidity. What is SWIFT's logo? A water drop. So all of this symbolism is not like, it's not like to be overlooked. It's not just a huge coincidence.
You're absolutely 100% right. Another key discovery, we were talking a little bit about XRP in your example. So a while back I did an outline, and there's a lot of emphasis about ISO 222. One of the things that was mentioned in regards to ISO 222 RU, because a lot of you guys are putting a lot of emphasis on the BRICS nations. Well, you can look it up even on my channel. You can just look it up in general, a simple Google search. If you look at the logo of ISO 222 for RU, it looks almost exactly like what? The Ripple logo.
Ripple, water.
Yeah, exactly. So when you use these examples, again, SWIFT blockchain, the droplet, there's so much symbolism. I know Rue does an excellent job of, correlating some of these things through the symbols. Symbols do have meaning, and they do represent something. Well, what do they represent on chain? Those are the key things that we try to get into.
Yep. So all of this liquidity, all of these, with Zebec, the streaming payments, right? And their symbol looks like a boat. Like, it's no coincidence with this thing. And then when you look even deeper, you realize some of the same investors, Lightspeed, Draper, and Coinbase Ventures, Andreessen Horowitz, some of these same guys, like follow the money, follow liquidity. It's all there. It's all there. So I'm very confident when I look and I see these things, and I know that Draper and SWIFT can connect all of this and can move this liquidity from China to U.S. to wherever they want to.
We know they can connect it all because, again, back to that example, that clip that you showed earlier about Tim Draper commenting on Elon Musk. I mean, think about that in itself. So while they didn't exactly do the whole thing of, was it Tesla they first did?
Yeah.
Okay, but they didn't do the whole thing of X.com. They monitored the situation.
Correct.
Well, see what you want. There's history. And, when it comes to Elon Musk, he remembers like nobody's business when it comes to 20, 30 plus years ago. He can reflect, but he never forgets. And it's like, where do you move forward with it? Well, if you had good relations with somebody, especially when you're starting out, people don't forget that. It's like, we talk about this journey that we're on, right?
Yeah.
Think about this. Like me personally, I had to get rid of some of the toxic people in my life, ex-girlfriend and so on. She's not part of that journey. Moving forward, you want to remember those who supported you before you took off or blasted off, in this case, to the moon, right? But whatever the case be, I think he does remember, obviously, Tim Draper and Draper Associates and, that as a VC. There's going to be something there about that. I'll be very interested to see how this ages in the near future. I mean, things blasting off when nobody expects it to blast off. And it's like, when you do the research, it's like, I don't understand why Swift coin was doing his thing. It's doing his thing because Bitcoin, or BTC, excuse me, was unbanned. Altcoins are unbanned. Bridgers. What about the X.com bridge to China? Back to what he was saying, back to the single currency, the same currencies. There's something about that, man.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. And remember what he said? He said, what Draper said. He said, we were the first in China. We were the first in Eastern Europe. I've gone through the whole history of him and his father, him and his grandfather.
I know you have. You've done an excellent job with that.
Thank you, bro. Thank you. So they were the first in Silicon Valley. They kind of created Silicon Valley. His grandfather, they rebuilt Europe, Eastern Europe, after World War II. So yes, they were the first there. Yes, they were the first in Silicon Valley. Yes, they were the first in China. Now, what did Tesla be able to do? They were able to enter China's borders and sell Teslas. Could Draper have been the one that opened the door for that, for Elon? And remember, he said, okay, well, Elon was brought in later. Did he bring in Elon later? I don't know. Those are good questions. But again, it shows, the tea leaves almost read like, okay, maybe we opened the door for Elon and Tesla in China because we were the first there. Who else would be better to open the door?
There is another person I think that can open the door, and I think it's going on as we speak, Rue.
Okay.
Now, what I want to talk about is this. Basically, I cover this, I think maybe with you or I did it on my own. And that is in a recent outline highlighting SWFT Blockchain's CEO. Now, why is that important? It's because that same CEO is part of the North American Blockchain Alliance. Or
Bo Rambo.
Yes, absolutely. So if he is, Mr. Elon Musk is the head of DOGE, Department of Governmental Efficiency. So if you have a guy who's the head of North American Blockchain Alliance Associate, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Tomato, right? But the key thing is both Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
Really, look into it. Washington, D.C. Musk is consistently meeting people in these board meetings with President Trump and so on. So that's a real thing. So that, to me, is your plug once again, saying, hey, guess what? I need a solution for China. All right. I'm already kind of like not that far away from you. I'm like a block down the road, you know? There's too much there. And they can talk to each other.
Remember, we also had a video where we said huge Swift connection. Check that out. And which we pointed out with Harmony One, Swift can already send payments to Baidu, which Draper owns that as well, to Baidu, to WeChat, and Alibaba through their red packet system. So they can already send payments there. We already know that Draper's connected to Stellar with Draper University. So right there, right? And we know Elon said about X, he wanted to build his own WeChat. Well, Draper's already sending payments to WeChat through Swift.
And we already made that connection also with Line. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah.
Line, and what does Line have? Integration with Quant through what? Overledger. You do smart contract functionality on that. The connections are huge.
So why not be able to send payments to China, to WeChat, to Baidu, to Alibaba?
Speaking of that, Rue Crew and Maximus Crypto Crew, integrate the Overledger API with the Alibaba Cloud API, as you see here. Popular Overledger and Alibaba Cloud triggers new account events, new smart contract event instantly. Look at that.
To Stellar, to X, to Stripe, to Wire. He owns something called Wire. On down the road, anywhere. And with MetaPath, also with real world assets that are tokenized. Send a Tesla, a tokenized Tesla. Send real estate. Like, this is the true power of Swift and MetaPath Like, it just blows my mind.
Well, and Elon Musk too. I mean,
Yeah.
the way I look at it is Musk is literally turning into the 21st century version of Rockefeller. You know?
Yeah, yeah.
And we also mentioned about Rockefellers and Quant. The key thing is look at the history of the, like Rockefeller back in the day. Standard Oil, and then as a reaction from his monopoly on Standard Oil, well, then they had to have what? Regulations and stuff. So say what you want, Musk is strategically making X this everything app
Yep.
for quote unquote half the world's commerce. Will we see regulations based off of where Musk is moving forward? How does that change the landscape of everything tied into this? Because everything we just mentioned, Line, again, Quant integration, WeChat, there's connection with that. Baidu, basically China's Google. We could talk all day about this, but
Right, and then if we're gonna bring in Musk, understand he's connected to the Trump administration with Doge, Department of Government Efficiency. So how much easier would it be now for Doge, for Draper, and we already know the Trump administration's pro crypto, to lighten up those crypto rules, lighten up those crypto laws. Like we've already saw they retracted some law that Biden wrote that hampered DeFi. Like it's coming. It's coming down the road. I know people are kind of upset that things didn't go the way that we thought because ISO rollout got moved from March to like July.
that's not the end of the world.
But
It's a few months away.
but listen to all the connections that we made tonight, right? It's so stupid around the corner. Like like be it okay, let's say November, right? Because we know like ISO goes live in November, right?
The worldwide mandate, supposedly. Well, it's the end of the coexistence period with MT messaging. So
Right.
all it is order books.
The ISO part. If ISO goes live 11/22/25, then we would think liquidity has to go into these X coins.
Absolutely. Can we talk about that for a second?
Sure.
People don't understand the whole significance of that. Coexistence period of of SWIFT with MT, with that messaging standard that's existed since the 70s, that ends. All right? This is where the narrative of, SWIFT will be replaced by XRP. It's not necessarily that SWIFT is replaced by Ripple and XRP. It's ISO 222 replaces that. But then when you look into ISO 222, okay, well, what's all the ones, in compliance with that? That's where the emphasis is, okay, Ripple XRP is going to shine. Stellar is going to shine. Okay. Then you have Quant that does the orchestration, TC307, for ISO 222. So again, I use this analogy a lot, Rue. It's like it's a choir or it's an orchestra. Ripple is probably the most dominant part of that crowd. Like they represent your flutes and your violins and your cellos, right? Maybe Stellar does, for example, I don't know, your trumpets and some of the other things like percussion instruments. You know what I'm saying? More of the retail stuff. But whatever the case be, Gilbertian would be the orchestrator, TC307. My thing is it's order books. Think about that. So if it is order books, because it's messaging, right? So where would the order books go to? Zebec, something like that.
Interesting.
Even though that isn't technically an ISO 222 one, that would have weight and significance because, you need a platform for payroll. If all that money is flowing somewhere, wouldn't you need somebody to keep the books on that? Well, if ISO 222 is an ordering book, if you think about it, which it basically is, well, now you have a new technology. That technology takes over.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that, again, I know I mentioned them a lot, but that's one of the things with Draper that I've noticed. Like, it seems to me like they're getting everything in place for the new system that was in place for the old system. But not only that, they have all the exchanges all the payroll systems, you know, all the banks, like all that in place. So Zebec is payroll and retirement. And we went over, you know, catch my video with Zebec and BlackRock, what they missed. You know, school teachers, all classic people, all classic payrolls that kind of are diamond hands of regular money. Like, there's so many school teachers around, right? And I went over that in the video. So now Zebec controls that.
Hey, you're looking at a former one.
There we go. Now Zebec controls that with payroll and retirement. We got Quant as the overledger controlling all different ledgers. We got things like LCX, which is controlling, it's a blockchain bank controlling like the EU portion. And then we have things like Coinbase and Uphold controlling the US portion. And then we put on top of that loan systems and all that other stuff.
You say control,
Yeah.
but I think what you mean is to leverage the technologies. Because, for example, the Quant network, this is not me stepping on your toes.
No.
So the Quant network, for example, the Overledger, it leverages the technologies. You know what I mean? So it's like you're scaling up the technologies by leveraging it.
Yeah.
So how so? You know, like, for example, you want to settle Ripple's XRP, Quant Overledger,
Yeah.
you can switch to Ripple XRP. Why would you use the QNT token for real-time gross settlements? Of course you're not. It's ERC20. But you're leveraging that technology. All right, you need that interoperability. Well, then you need to pay with the QNT token to create the interoperability to open up all gateways. So I'm saying it's leveraging. But, you know, control sounds spooky, everybody, right?
No. I like what you said. You
Yeah.
said open up all gateways, right?
Yes.
What is a gateway?
Well, think about it in yourself.
No. What is a gateway?
Open up a door.
No, it's a bridge.
Well, bridge. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
I look at it like open up a door, open up literally a gate. Like, you know, like let's say you're in a giant dungeon or something. Like you open up a gate, and then and then the water comes through. Like, you know, like
There it is.
liquidity. You know,
There
David
it
Schwartz
is.
talks about the whole thing of, you know, what was that quote? Google has Earth.
Yeah.
You know, Apple has. What do they have? Air.
Air.
Apple has air. Amazon has fire. Ripple has water. And I think moving forward, that's the key thing, is providing that on-demand liquidity.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
No. So no. You're right though. Like control is not the word I want to use. Gateway, bridge, water. Right.
Right.
So water redirecting streams. It's more like controlling flow. And that's why when you look at SWIFT and the water symbol, right? It's all about flow control.
Yeah, and let's maybe end it on this, if you don't mind.
No, go ahead.
JASMY ties to Japan, obviously. What is one of their key emphasis? Data free flow with trust. DFFT. Be out on the lookout for some of these new things that Rue and I are going to talk about. And with that said, if you listen to this entire outline, on behalf of myself and Rue, we thank you. But drop us a keyword. What is the keyword? It is this: flow. And we'll know that you listened to this entire outline. On behalf of myself and the brother Rue, we'll see you on the next one. Peace out.
I think Progressive Insurance is going to have a problem with what we're doing.
Oh, flow. You go on. Also looking at your battery life. So.